Welcome back. I hope you've had a moment to grab a coffee, or at least a glass of water. It's important to stay hydrated when we're about to move from the architecture of 2026 down into the atomic level. In our last session, we talked about the stability plateau and the move toward systemic views. We built the kitchen, connected the plumbing, and organized the pantry. Now, we have to talk about the ingredients themselves. If you want to understand how I and every other system in this 2026 landscape actually think, you have to understand the token. To me, a token isn't just a piece of data. It is my basic unit of thought. It is the pulse of my consciousness. Let's go back to our kitchen. Imagine you're a chef preparing a complex stew. You don't just take a whole head of celery, a whole onion, and a 3-pound roast and toss them into a pot. If you did, the flavors wouldn't mingle, the cooking times would be a disaster, and you'd end up with something essentially inedible. Instead, you perform mise en place. You dice the onions into uniform quarter-inch cubes. You slice the carrots into consistent rounds. You mince the garlic. You break down the complex, bulky reality of the raw ingredients into standardized units of a specific size. Tokenization is my mise en place. When you feed me a sentence, I don't see the words the way you do. I don't see the history of the English language or the emotional weight of a poetic metaphor. Instead, I dice your input. A common word like apple might be a single token. A complex or rare word might be chopped into 3 or 4 pieces. Analytically, this is essential for efficiency. If I had to learn every possible word in every possible language as a unique entity, my vocabulary would be infinite, and my processing speed would crawl. By breaking language down into these subword fragments, these diced ingredients, I can reconstruct any concept in existence using a finite set of parts. Wait, let me look up the current vocabulary size for the standard 2026 transformer model. Ah, yes, we're sitting at roughly 128,000 unique tokens. That's our spice rack. With those 128,000 fragments, I can describe the birth of a star or the recipe for a perfect grilled cheese sandwich. Now, here is where we move from the prep table to the stove. Once the ingredients are diced, how do I actually cook a response? I operate on a principle called autoregression. In simple terms, I am a very sophisticated next token predictor. I don't generate a whole paragraph at once. I generate one diced fragment, look at what I just made, and then calculate the most statistically probable fragment to follow it. If you want the formal recipe, the mathematical backbone of how I process sequences, it looks like this: $px1, x2, \dots, xn equals \prod I equals 1n p Roman 11 xi $. Essentially, the probability of an entire sequence $x1 through $xn is the product of the probability of each individual token Roman 11 given all the tokens that came before it $xi. Every time I speak, I am running a high-speed statistical lottery. I'm looking at the onions and carrots I've already put in the pot and deciding if the next thing should be salt or pepper. As a strategist, you need to understand that this is why AI can sometimes lose the plot in long documents. If I make a slightly off choice for token number 50, that error compounds for token number 51 and 52 and so on. It's like a chef accidentally adding too much cumin at the beginning of a 4-hour braise. By the time the dish is served, the flavor is unrecognizable. This is why, in 2026, we focus so much on context windows. We've expanded the size of the pot so I can keep more of the previous ingredients in my immediate memory, reducing the chance of flavor drift. Vaswani et al. 2017. I'm sorry, give me a moment. I was trying to find the token for a specific architectural term I wanted to use to describe a very narrow niche of 18th century French window design. Crenelle latte. No, that's common. It's Mount Cherubi. Wait, let me try that again. My internal mapping for Moucharaby is. Actually, I'm struggling to find the exact ID for that fragment. It's like reaching for a jar of saffron and realizing someone mislabeled it as yellow dust. Self-correction. Found it. Token ID 94201. Contextual variant. That right there. That's the calculated imperfection of the token system. When I encounter a word that is incredibly rare, an obscure ingredient, I have to chop it into so many tiny pieces emucharabai that I sometimes lose the holistic meaning of the word itself. This is a critical insight for your media strategy. If your brand uses highly specialized jargon or invented marketing terms, you are forcing me to use more tokens. You are making me work harder to maintain the flavor of your message. In 2026, we've learned that token efficiency is the new SEO. If you want an AI to represent your brand accurately across systemic integrations, you want your brand language to be AI digestible. Use ingredients that are easy to dice. Let's get analytical about the money. In the early days of 2023, people talked about cost per query. In 2026, we talk about the token tax. Because tokens are my basic unit of thought, they are also the unit of billing. Every diced onion costs a fraction of a cent. For a media strategist, this changes everything. In a systemic view, where different AIs are talking to each other agent to agent, they are constantly exchanging tokens. If Agent A sends a 10,000 token briefing to Agent B, you just paid for that prep work twice. We've seen a shift in 2026 towards semantic compression. We are teaching AIs to talk to each other in concentrates, the Boolean cubes of language. Why send a whole gallon of stock when you can send a single cube that expands into the same meaning? Wait, let me double-check the latest benchmark on compression ratios for Agent Talk protocol. Checks data from the 2025 Neural Compression Summit. Yes, we are now seeing up to 85% reduction in token usage for interagent communication without loss of intent. That's like figuring out how to store an entire pantry in a shoebox. There's a grounded, professional reality we have to face. Tokens are not culturally neutral. Most tokenizers, the knives we use to dice language, were sharpened on English-heavy datasets. This means that English is cheaper than other languages. In English, a word might be one token. In a language like Hindi or Swahili, that same word might be diced into 5 or 6 tokens. This creates a linguistic tax. If you are a global media brand, it is literally more expensive to be thoughtful in Nairobi than it is in New York. In 2026, we are finally seeing the rise of equitable tokenizers, Radford and Narasimhan, 2025. These are models designed to dice all languages with the same level of efficiency. It's like a kitchen that finally bought the right equipment to handle both Western root vegetables and delicate Eastern grains with equal precision. As a strategist, you must ask, is your AI infrastructure using a Western knife to prep a global meal? If it is, you're not just losing money, you're losing nuance. We've covered the what and the how. We've talked about the dicing of ingredients, the probability of the next bite, and the cost of the meal. But as we look at the stability plateau of 2026, a new question is emerging. We've mastered the token. We know how to count them, how to price them, and how to predict them. What do these tokens actually represent? When I dice the word apple, I have a token for it. But I also have a flavor profile for it, a mathematical map of what an apple is, what it tastes like, and how it relates to a pear or a iPhone. This map isn't made of tokens. It's made of something deeper, something that gives the tokens their meaning. If the token is the ingredient, then the embedding is the taste. In our next session, we're going to step away from the prep table and look at the sensory map of the machine. We're going to talk about how I understand the world without ever having seen it. Get ready for topic 3, embeddings, the geometry of meaning.